Okay, I trust everyone can see me and hear me. Happy 4th of July, and God bless you all. I'm glad we're connected and that we'll be able to begin now. We were given to understand that our dear friend Sir Arthur would join us today, and I feel him nearby waiting. He's kind of waiting in the wings. So, for those of you who have not ever seen this phenomena, you're about to see me leave and him come in. And for those who have seen it, you'll know what's happening. I guess you all will, now that I think of it. So anyway, God bless you all, and I'm going to begin to pull him in, and hopefully we'll see he'll join us in a minute or two. There are many here, not just him. Good afternoon to one and all, and God bless you, each and every one. The first thing I should want to say is that I'm quite grateful for all the effort that you've made, all of you, to assemble thus and to be prepared to receive the message that I've come to give. How much I've looked forward to this date, you've got no idea. 'Twas back when I was yet in flesh, I would think, what is it now, 6 or 7 decades, I suppose, when I was given this vision, just as I was coming out of the seance, mind you, of being able to reach many, many people, well, as we are doing here, I see. And yet, in those days, with the motion picture industry in its infancy, well, such things were, well, almost beyond imagination. However, I should have known better, having seen so much that Spirit had shown me. And even then I doubted. I thought, well, I suppose one day perhaps there'll be a way to do it. And then it is now that we are here. So in a sense, I've got yet one more proof of the very much used statement about how there is no time and there is no space. And yet here we are all together now in one place, I suppose we could say. And so it is that I've come to share with you something that was given to me not that long ago as time flies, having everything to do with the much touted year 2012 AD, which, by the by, for those of you who know not what those letters mean, it means, it's a Latin, Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. Why do you suppose it is that so much has been made of this year? Why, going all the way back to the Maya, that very interesting and yet mysterious culture of people that, well, it appears came and went, leaving only their calendar. Oh, there are other things that they've left, of course, but the calendar has assumed the central point of interest. With good reason. They, who were much coached and guided and tutored and mentored by, well, many beings from many different systems of worlds, including those that you would think of today as aliens. They, who were the recipients of all of this knowledge and intelligent downloading that occurred even then, before the word download, I suppose, was ever used, at least in the English language. They received so very much, and they were at least open-minded enough, hint, hint, to receive it, knowing that they were being guided by a culture that, of course, surpassed their own. And so they were grateful. They had the appropriate response to such things, and they were as open as they could be, and it wasn't a problem, the language that they spoke, though they did indeed have their own. It was only that they had but to be open-minded, for so very much of what they did receive was received telepathically, as is usual when one enters the higher realms of spirit. So they received and they received and they received, and they prospered, and they did very well, and in time it came to be that it was obvious that they were receiving information having to do with times yet to be. The times that we are in now, my dear ones, the times that we are about to enter. We've spoken about the cosmic laws and the law of cycle in particular. That law is one that describes conditions in nature, in cosmos, wherein most things, it seems, note I say most, things come and go with a beginning, a midpoint, and then an ending, a terminus. And yet there be those things that have had no cyclic significance at all. I suppose one of these being the Godhead itself. And so it is that we've come to understand these things, cycles coming and cycles going, some much longer than others. Why, the Hindus have what they call the day of Brahm, thousands and thousands of what you would call your earth years, to signify just one day of their major deity, Brahm or Brahma. I suppose you're still with me. I sense you are. I feel all your thoughts agreement, so I'll continue. In those vast annals that were downloaded to the Maya was the very peculiar point of interest that their calendar, their much famous and touted calendar that's been so misinterpreted, I'm afraid, but at the same time much appreciated by those who have got the sense to do so, have come to see that there is a point wherein it appears to end. Now, at the time when they received this, it didn't affect them too much, but it was thousands of years in advance. They knew not completely what this was about. They only knew that that's as far as the information that they'd been given flowed. What were they to think? They knew better than to speculate too much, and so all they did was, like good secretaries, they simply wrote down what was given to them, and indeed it took them to the very, very mysterious date of the 21st of December of the year 2012. Why? So many have wondered, so many still wonder. I've come not to put the cap on that. In other words, I've certainly not got all the answers of it, but I at least can tell you some things, and my aim today is to give you what we do believe is going to be occurring after that time. For the world will still continue to exist. Make no mistake about that. It's not as if, poof, we'll all be gone. No, not at all. However, what we do know is that reality, or what people call reality, which is simply their daily existence, will indeed be shifted. It won't happen as it appears in just a day and a night, though from that time there will be quite noticeable differences on the earth plane. One of these will be a distinct difference, for those of you who are sensitive enough to notice it, in the atmosphere itself. You'll feel it feeling lighter. It would almost appear brighter. Different in that there'll be the noticeable difference of, well, what I can almost call fearlessness. That which you are so accustomed to, unfortunately, the vibrations of what has been called fear will be beautifully missing. How's that? Well, the whole thing will be a vibrational shift. The frequency will have been accelerated quite a bit. And even as is that moment when the sun doth break the horizon, and one could say, oh, now it is daybreak, having noted the lightening effect for hours or so before that, and yet, not until there is that point of visibility of the solar logos is it known to be daybreak or daylight. Something like that. And it is bound to occur right around that same date that's been given, the 21st of December of the year 2012. Thereafter, what? Well, as you've all noted, those who've been watching, there have been many, many things that have been building up to this point, just in your daily lives, as well as in the political and economic structures of the day, many of which have been disintegrating. How odd. And yet not at all. Not when we understand that the cycle is over, in which certain things will even be allowed to exist, at least for most of you. Now, as you may know, in cosmos there is room for everything and everybody, and so certainly many of those conditions that you now are acquainted with that are not of the pleasant type to contemplate. I won't even go into the listing of them, for I don't want to spoil the beauty of this transmission. You know what they are, and no doubt you're dealing with them to some degrees, some of you more than others. Well, many of these will simply be outdistanced. That's the word, outdistanced. In other words, you will have magically entered a new realm wherein they have no effect any further upon you who live at that thing called the third dimension of the earth plane. Other planetary bodies will also be affected, but of these we need not speak, in that you're not living there, you're only living here. So let's keep it current and pertinent. What then will be the difference to most of you? I dare say it'll be like the feeling of starting all over again. You'll have the distinct feeling that there is a lot of room for a lot of creation. And that's what you're supposed to do. Better yet, if you begin in advance. Here we are in the month of July, in the year previous, 2011. How now? I say that one would do best